Hi, I'm Rebecca Colvin, Oncology Dietitian Nutritionist. Thank you for joining us for this community lecture presented by Ridley-Tree Cancer Center and the Cancer Foundation of Santa Barbara. In this series, we are exploring some of the many aspects of post-treatment cancer care. Today, we're going to focus on the role nutrition plays in supporting treatment outcomes, enhancing quality of life, and decreasing the risk of disease recurrence. Our menu for today: we're going to go through an introduction, talk about food as medicine, nutritional health for survivorship, the AICR survivorship nutrition recommendations, meat, alcohol, whole foods and plants, coffee, the Mediterranean diet, and intuitive eating. So, potential lingering effects of cancer treatment. Perhaps as a cancer survivor, you've had chemotherapy or radiation or immunotherapy or hormone therapy. Any of these can put you at an increased risk for certain side effects. Some of those are listed here. I'll just name a few: diabetes, congestive heart failure, taste and smell changes, hyperlipidemia, and fatigue. There are many contributors to your wellness. So given that you may have some potential lingering side effects, there are some things that you can do that can help. Again, I'll just mention a few: exercise, quality sleep, stress management, prevention of inflammation. And what we're going to focus on today is diet. So think of food as medicine. It's important to take good care of your gut. So when we eat food, you put it in your mouth, chew it, or you ingest it. Then it moves down to your stomach and intestines for digestion and absorption. Then it goes to different parts of your body, like your organs and your bloodstream, for utilization. What you don't need is eliminated. So you can see that food touches almost all parts of your body. And what you eat is important. Every day, we eat almost 3 to 4 pounds of food. It's important to properly nourish your body so that it can function optimally and you can feel your best. Nutritional health for survivorship. So nutrition can help you rebuild and maintain gut health, immune system function, strengthen endurance, cognitive function. It can also help prevent recurrence of cancer and other diseases. So what are the survivorship nutrition recommendations? Well, in 2018, the American Institute for Cancer Research and the World Cancer Research Fund developed an expert report on diet, nutrition, physical activity, and the prevention of cancer. This report is applicable to cancer survivors. The panel of scientists reviewed thousands of articles, and they came up with a 12,000 plus page document that you can read in your spare time at wcrf.org. Or we'll go through some of those recommendations here that are summarized in this chart. So starting at the bottom left, where it says, be a healthy weight. Above that, physical activity. And since we're on this one, I'll just mention that the AICR recommends a minimum of 30 minutes of physical activity 5 days a week. And that includes moderate physical activity like brisk walking or tennis. Above that one, eat a diet rich in whole grains, vegetables, fruits, and beans. And this one we'll go into more in the upcoming slides. Limit consumption of fast foods and other processed foods high in fat, starches, or sugars. Limit consumption of red and processed meat. Limit consumption of sugar-sweetened drinks. Limit alcohol consumption. Do not use supplements for cancer prevention. For mothers, breastfeed your baby if you can. And after a cancer diagnosis, follow our recommendations if you can. So that means for cancer survivors, not all of these will be feasible, and that's okay. So the AICR's 10 recommendations were put to the test. So a study analyzed adherence of the AICR's recommendations. They looked at almost 1,500 patients with colorectal cancer, and they followed them for almost 8 years. Colorectal cancer survivors who most adhered to the recommendations had a lower risk of dying from any cause. When BMI was removed, they still saw a link between following the recommendations and a lower risk of both colorectal cancer and overall mortality. So the next slide I wanted to bring up because a lot of patients ask about this. So red meat. So the AICR recommends to limit red meat, which is beef, pork, and lamb, to eat less than 12 to 18 ounces cooked, which is about 16 to 24 ounces raw per week. Grass-fed animals have better nutrient composition. You also want to avoid processed meat. So processed meat is meats that have been processed and preserved by smoking, curing, salting, or addition of chemical preservatives. Most luncheon meats, sausage, jerky, hot dogs, and bacon are considered processed meats. And don't eat fake meats. So that would include things like veggie burgers, which most tend to have more salt, fat, and calories than just eating the real thing. And alcohol. So less than a third of adults are aware that alcohol increases cancer risk. All types of alcohol, including wine, beer, liquor, increase cancer risk. For some cancers, such as breast and esophageal, the risk starts increasing with less than 1 drink per day. So if you must drink alcohol, limit it to less than 2 drinks a day for men and less than 1 drink a day for women. 1 drink would be 12 ounces of beer, 8 ounces of malt liquor, 5 ounces of wine, 1.5 ounces of hard liquor. And you can see on the right a picture depicting the different serving sizes. So dietary supplements. This is a picture depicting the percentage of US adults taking dietary supplements in each age group. So you can see the percentages are pretty high. I'm going to just skip down to the last one. So 78% of adults 55 and older are taking supplements. So it's a really high number. And these numbers include cancer survivors. Dietary supplements, so vitamins, minerals, other natural supplements, are not generally recommended for cancer prevention or survivorship. Eat whole foods to get most of your nutritional wellness. Nutrients work synergistically in foods to create optimal health benefits. Supplements can be valuable in some situations, things like poor diet, illness, deficiencies, environmental reasons, or certain diseases. For this, it's best to probably talk to your dietitian. So next, I want to talk about the Women's Healthy Eating and Living Study, or the WHEAL study. I like to share this study with a lot of my patients because it talks about simple changes that you can make in your day-to-day life that can have a huge impact on your outcomes. So this study is a randomized controlled trial that looked at over 3,000 breast cancer survivors over 7 years. A sub-analysis of the study found that regardless of body weight status, breast cancer survivors who ate at least 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, exercised for 30 minutes of maybe even doing just walking 6 days per week, had a 50% reduced mortality. So that's a huge number. So we talked a little bit about fruits and vegetables in the previous slide, but really any plant food is good for you to consume. So you really want to be focusing your diet on plant foods. And the best way to consume them is in whole form. And so what does that mean? So what is a whole food? So whole food is itself. It comes from trees, plants, or out of the ground. You can see in the picture on the right, that's an orange tree. So if you were to pick that orange from the tree and eat it just as it is, that's considered a whole food. It hasn't been bleached, refined, injected, fortified, irradiated, gas stripped. It's just itself. So it would be really hard to only eat whole foods. So it's totally okay to have minimally processed whole food. And that's a food that it's not just itself, but it contains all or most of the original edible parts. For example, tomato sauce. So it has tomatoes, but it also has some other ingredients and it's blended, and peanut butter is similar. So these are totally acceptable parts of your diet. So whole foods contain few ingredients. So these are some more examples, like we already mentioned, fruits and vegetables, but also nuts, seeds, whole grains, legumes, meats raised in a wild environment, eggs, basic milk products, milk, cheese, yogurt, cottage cheese. They provide a natural balance of nutrients and phytochemicals and provide the building blocks for a healthy diet or cuisine. The next few slides, I have pictures of a processed food and then a whole food alternative. So in this slide, on the left-hand side is a protein bar. And then on the right is our whole food alternative, which is yogurt and berries and some nuts. And then for this one on the left is a veggie burger patty. And then our whole food alternative is whole chicken. In this side, on the left, we have sweet potato chips. And then on the right, we have a sweet potato as our whole food alternative. So now I want to shift into talking about diet patterns. So it's the totality of diet exposure that is most likely to be associated with health outcomes after cancer instead of just one nutrient intake. So, one diet pattern that has been studied a lot is the Mediterranean diet pattern. So, this is a pyramid depicting different parts of the Mediterranean diet. At the bottom are the things that you want to be doing the most of. And then as it goes to the top, it's things that you want to be doing less often. So, at the very bottom, you can see there's people dancing, eating together, socializing, playing sports. So, a part of this is being physically active and enjoying meals with others. Above that, you can see lots of plant foods. So things like eggplant, grapes, avocado, whole grains. So you want to be basing your meal on these foods. Above that is fish and seafood. So you can see there's whole fish like salmon, then there's some shellfish. You want to be eating these often, at least twice a week. Above that, you have poultry, eggs, cheese, and yogurt. So moderate portions of these daily to weekly. And then meats and sweets, consuming less often. And then on the left-hand side is wine in moderation. And also note that that's not required, that it might be better to actually get most of your liquids from drinking water. So, like I mentioned, the Mediterranean diet is one of the most well-studied diet patterns. It's associated with lower mortality from any cause after a cancer diagnosis. A prospective cohort showed evidence of a 52% lower mortality after colorectal cancer. An analysis of observational studies showed a 25% reduction in mortality among cancer survivors, including colorectal, head and neck, respiratory, gastric, liver, and bladder. So it's also been looked at with prostate cancer. Researchers analyzed the eating habits of 754 men with prostate cancer and almost 1,300 controls without prostate cancer. Those most closely following a Mediterranean diet were 34% less likely to have an aggressive form of prostate cancer than those not following a Mediterranean diet. So these are two cookbooks that would be great to get you started and give you some good ideas of meals you can make that are within the Mediterranean diet pattern. The New Mediterranean Diet Cookbook by Nancy Harmon Jenkins and Zest for Life, the Mediterranean Anti-Cancer Diet Cookbook. And then on the right are two pictures of some meal ideas. The one on the top is baked fish with an olive and tomato tapenade. Below that is a tabbouleh, which is a parsley and bulgur salad. And then these are some more ideas of things you could do. On the left-hand side is a salad with tomatoes and basil, olives and mozzarella. And then on the right is salmon and asparagus, more tomatoes, herbs, olive oil that's cooked in parchment paper. Next, we're going to talk about fruit and vegetable research updates. So the AICR is currently recommending eating at least 3.5 to 5 cups of fruits and vegetables daily. A recent meta-analysis found a reduction in mortality in ovarian cancer patients consuming 5 or more portions of fruit and vegetables per day. Therefore, the AICR's recommendations of 5 servings of fruits and vegetables per day in the future could potentially increase to 7 a day, which might be something around 4 servings of vegetables and 3 servings of fruit. So how might you break that down? So for women, perhaps 2 to 4 cups of vegetables a day, 1 to 2 cups of fruit per day. Men, perhaps 3 to 5 cups of vegetables a day, and 1.5 to 3 cups of fruit a day. And then on the right-hand side, I tried to break it up per meal so you could see how much you'd have to eat throughout the day. So a cup of fruit at breakfast, cup of veggies and a cup of fruit for a snack, 1.5 cups of veggies at lunch and dinner, a cup of fruit for dessert, and then you're at 7 cups for the day. So some more tips on how to get in more fruits and vegetables. Start to eat fruits and vegetables at breakfast and lunch. Don't wait till dinner. More than 2/3 of the plate should be fruits and vegetables. Really make that the focus of your meal. Bring a vegetable to work to add to lunch, like a bell pepper, cucumber, carrots, or celery. Add more than 2 vegetables to sandwiches and salads. So there's one vegetable group that I want to highlight, which is cruciferous vegetables. They contain the phytonutrient isothiocyanates. So I'll talk to you a little bit more about phytonutrients in an upcoming slide. Isothiocyanates change the way estrogen is metabolized or broken down by the body. They shift the active form of estrogen into a weaker form. This is beneficial for women with hormone or estrogen-related cancers, such as breast or uterine. Eating these vegetables raw, lightly sauteed, or steamed is best to retain the full array of nutrients. Here's a list of cruciferous vegetables. Things like arugula, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, radishes, rutabaga, turnips. This slide is depicting some ways that you can use cruciferous vegetables. So the picture on the left is wraps made with Napa and purple cabbage. And then on the right are Brussels sprouts, broccoli, kale, and cauliflower. So next we're going to talk about nuts and seeds. So nuts and seeds have been part of the human diet since the Paleolithic times. They're rich sources of healthy fats, fiber, plant protein, and essential vitamins and minerals. They also contain phytonutrients that have antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. These are some examples of nuts and seeds: almonds, Brazil nuts, pecans, pumpkin seeds, flax seeds, and chia seeds, just to name a few. Today, I want to highlight ground flaxseed. Flaxseed contains fiber, lignans, and omega-3 fatty acids. A recent systemic review of flaxseed and its association with breast cancer demonstrated a 31% lower mortality after breast cancer among those who consumed around 1/2 tablespoon per day of a ground flaxseed and sesame seed mixture. Additionally, a multi-site randomized controlled trial found that men who were fed a flaxseed supplemented diet an average of 30 days before a prostatectomy experienced a greater reduction in cancer cell growth than men fed a low-fat diet, a combined flaxseed and low-fat diet, or a control diet. Whole flaxseed must be ground to obtain its benefits. 1 to 2 tablespoons of flaxseed per day is considered safe. Filtered flaxseed oil does not contain the lignans. Unfiltered does. Add ground flaxseed to cereal, muffins, yogurts, and salads. So a lot of patients ask us about coffee. So I included a quick rundown on coffee. Historically, people have seen drinking coffee as a bad habit, associating it with other vices like alcohol consumption. But actually, the AICR recently added coffee to its list of cancer-fighting foods. Beneficial components of coffee, including regular and decaf, include phenolic acids and lignans, several phytonutrients, including chlorogenic and quinic acids. In laboratory tests, these compounds exhibit antioxidant protection, deactivate carcinogens, and encourage healthy levels of hormones. There is strong evidence that consuming 1 to 2 cups a day of coffee helps protect against liver and endometrial cancer. A recent study looked at coffee, decaf and regular, and tea consumption habits of almost 9,000 breast cancer survivors over close to a dozen years. And they found drinking 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day was linked to a lower risk of dying overall and from breast cancer. The FDA advises a safe limit for caffeine consumption at about 400 milligrams per day. That's 24 ounces of coffee or 4 6-ounce cups. Drinking too many caffeinated beverages may increase cortisol levels, a stress hormone, which may contribute to chronic inflammation, which is one of several hallmarks of cancer. More research is needed. Certain people may be more sensitive to caffeine and therefore need to reduce intake. Patients with heart or sleep problems may need to avoid it altogether. So we've talked a lot about plant foods. Now we're going to talk about phytonutrients in plants. These are the components that give us the reasons why we know that plant foods are good for us. So phytonutrients are naturally occurring plant chemicals. Phyto means plant in Greek. They provide plants with color, odor, and flavor. Once we eat them, research shows they can influence the chemical processes inside our bodies in helpful ways. Phytonutrients help halt cancer metabolism. They stimulate the immune system. They block substances we eat, drink, and breathe from becoming carcinogens. They reduce the kind of inflammation that makes cancer growth more likely. They reduce the kind of oxidative damage to cells that can spark cancer. They slow the growth rate of cancer cells, and they promote programmed cell death. And finally, they help to regulate hormones. So colorful foods contain phytonutrients. So this is a chart depicting different colors on the left-hand side. In the middle are the phytonutrients, And then on the right are the fruit or vegetable that contain them. And just note, it's not just fruit or vegetables that contain phytonutrients, all plant foods do. So I'll just point out a few in this chart. So for example, spinach and avocado contain lutein and zeaxanthin, which is the yellow-green color. Tomatoes contain lycopene, which is red. And don't forget herbs and spices at every meal. I'll just point out a few here: basil, cinnamon, ginger, rosemary, saffron can all be good additions to your diet. Herbs and spices pack a powerful punch, so a little bit goes a long way. I'd say maybe a teaspoon or so of a spice could have as many phytonutrients as a serving or two of fruit. So these are some pictures of food and different ways you can use herbs and spices. So on the left is a smoothie made with mint, and then on the right is ginger, turmeric, and lemon beverage. On the left here, we have a tomato basil soup, and on the right is a chicken and vegetable soup with thyme. So next, I want to shift gears a little bit. We talked a lot about specific foods, food groups, their benefits as it applies to cancer survivors, which is important. But I also think it's really important to know about the mind-body experience of food. I often see a lot of cancer survivors that feel stressed with eating because they're afraid that what they're eating can impact their outcomes. I think it's important to continue to make mealtime an enjoyable experience and to cultivate a healthy relationship with food. And practicing mindful and intuitive eating can help you do that. So prepare. When you are preparing food, the sights and smells ignite the part of your brain that readies your body to accept nourishment. If you're eating at a restaurant, enjoy the sights and smells as you wait for your food. Put away electronics. Allow yourself to hold space for one thing: eating. Sit down. Take a deep breath, center yourself, and give yourself permission to eat as much as you want and enjoy the food in front of you. If desired, this would be the time to give thanks, pray, or say grace. Develop a mealtime ritual. This may include setting the table or turning on some relaxing music to enjoy during the meal. Be still. Dedicate at least part of the meal to silent enjoyment of the food. Connect. Note to yourself how the food tastes when you chew slowly and savor it. Pay attention to your body's reaction. When eating a meal with family or friends, talk about the food together. Take in the food with all your senses. What does the food look like? Is it appealing or unappealing? What do you hear? Is the food sizzling? What does the food smell like? What's the texture like? How does the food taste? Is it savory or sweet? Try to identify ingredients and flavors. Reject the dieting mindset. Shift your focus away from actions you think will change the way your body looks. Instead, focus on actions that will improve the way your body feels. Don't punish your body for craving foods that others might deem as bad or unhealthy. Let go of the notion that your body must conform to societal standards of beauty. All bodies are worthy of love and life. Do not attempt to significantly limit calories. Listen to your body. Recognize when you've had enough to eat or when you want more. Honor those internal cues as natural and healthy. A major sign of fullness is that food becomes less appetizing or doesn't taste as good as it did when you began the meal. If you find yourself eating uncontrollably, you may need to limit the amount of food you put on your plate at first. Waiting 5 minutes before getting seconds can also help your body become more attuned to hunger and fullness cues. Listen to your body. Tune into how your body feels during and after meals and snacks. How do you want to feel? What types of foods may support that? Get curious and experiment. Everyone is different. Only you know how certain foods feel or how you experience hunger and fullness. Eating in a healthful way should feel good, both physically and mentally, and result in a satisfying experience. So there's a mindfulness study done that looked at 36 prostate cancer survivors that completed 11 weekly nutrition and cooking classes that integrated mindfulness training. The aim of the study was to replace intake of animal protein with vegetable protein. The results, they had a significant decrease in animal protein intake that was self-maintained 3 months after completion of classes. The implications: nutrition education that includes mindfulness training is a feasible approach to facilitate lasting or sustainable dietary changes. These are two books on mindful and intuitive eating. On the left is Intuitive Eating by Evelyn Tribole and Elise Resch. And then on the right is Eating Mindfully by Susan Albers. A word on bone health. So, bone health can be impacted by certain cancers and cancer treatments. To learn about nutrients to support bone health, please view the Ridley-Tree Cancer Center's community lecture, Bone Health During and After Treatment by Juliet Penn and Sarah Washburn. The YouTube link is below. It's youtube.com/Cancer Center SB. A few good websites where you can find more information: the American Institute of Cancer Research, Today's Dietitian, the Oncology Nutrition Dietetic Practice Group, and the American Cancer Society. A reasonable goal. So this is a quote from a fellow oncology dietitian, Suzanne Dixon. We engage in pro-cancer and anti-cancer behaviors all the time, and it helps to keep it in perspective. We have a health bank account, and we constantly make deposits, things that improve our health, and withdrawals. Not so good for health. I exercised today. That's a deposit. I had 2 glasses of wine with dinner. That's a withdrawal. I ate a 12-ounce T-bone steak. That's a withdrawal. I don't smoke and I maintain a healthy weight. Both are important deposits. There's no way anyone can consistently make only deposits and take no withdrawals. It's important to find your balance. Thank you so much for joining us in this community lecture. We hope this information has been helpful. As a reminder, everyone's health situation is unique. If you have any questions or concerns regarding your health, please contact your healthcare team.